From the Major Label Debut Podcast Network, this is MLD News. I'm Graham Wright, and I'm joined, as always, to tackle the news by Major Label Debut co-producer and my good friend, John Paul Bullock. John Paul, which football team, which NFL professional American four downs football team do you cheer for?
I guess I'm a Rams fan. I guess.
Good year for it.
I think so. Rams or Chargers, because they're both LA teams. I grew up in Virginia without a team. I played high school football briefly and hated it with such a fiery passion that it killed my love of American football in general. I guess I'm a Rams fan. I've been to more Rams games than any other team, so I guess I can. And I was here when they moved back to LA, so I guess I can organically claim to be. I don't know.
Ground floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was outside linebacker and right guard because my school was so small that we had to play both ways the entire time. And that's that will kill your love of football real quick.
In the early days of Tokyo Police Club, when we would stay at our manager's apartment and he had the first TiVo I'd ever seen, he had TiVo'd this reality show called Two-A-Days about a high school football team in Texas that did 2 practices a day. And we would watch that. We would get to New York and unpack all of our equipment up 5 flights of stairs into his Hell's Kitchen apartment. And then we would sit on the couch and drink beer and watch Two-A-Days on TiVo. Yes, we are pivoting Major Label Debut to a sports podcast in a naked attempt to be acquired by Bill Simmons' podcast network. And I cheer for the Green Bay Packers, a team I adopted primarily for aesthetic and also moral high ground insufferability reasons. And so I was watching them play American Thanksgiving Day football. And in the middle of them stomping our divisional rivals, the Detroit Lions, I was delighted to discover that Thanksgiving football has its own exciting halftime show.
It does now.
It does now. It seemed like real Farm League Super Bowl halftime show. I really thought that this halftime show would work great on a larger stage. It was Jack White, Detroit native, and then he was joined by Slim Shady, Marshall Mathers, Eminem himself, another Detroit native. Jack did 3 tunes, Slim guested on the middle one, and then they released the whole thing on the internet the next day, which I thought was interesting because Tokyo Police Club did a couple of outdoor sports televised events, and when we did those, a little pulling back the curtain here, they didn't let us perform for real. They said, you guys, because we didn't want to lip sync. And they said, if you guys don't play to a backing track, we're not televising your set. So we went in and you go in and you record yourself playing live and then you mime to that at the actual thing. And the one we did was an outdoor hockey game in Alberta in the winter. So it was 45 degrees Celsius below zero. And the instruments literally were unplayable. So it was really good news that we played to a backing track. And so I watched this Jack White halftime show really squinting at the TV to try and discern if Jack White himself would also mime. And it didn't look like he did. And I think the release of that live EP says that he definitely performed that whole thing live. So double kudos to Jack.
I mean, I got to say, I saw Jack White earlier this year or late last year. It's impossible to tell with the passage of time, but he was incredible. And I had one of the great missed opportunities of my young life was when the White Stripes were at the white hot peak of their fame. I had tickets to go see them at Radio City Music Hall or Roseland Ballroom or someplace in New York, and I ended up having to sell the tickets at the last minute because I had to work late, and it was heartbreaking because I loved that band. And this album that he's got right now, No Name, is phenomenal. And I went in, I saw him at the Palladium with our good friend Doug and Geeta and a bunch of pals. It was a really, really nice group and warm, friendly evening. Her boyfriend Chris was there. It was, just good vibes from the start. And then we went into the show and he crushed, just incredible. And it was perfectly choreographed and all the new songs rule. And it was I was blown away by it. And, also Third Man, has put out like 3 of my favorite albums this year. That Bel Air Lip Balms record is spectacularly great. And they're like functioning. They're like my favorite indie label of the year. If they are an indie label, I'm not sure the real nature of how that thing works, but dude, the guy is firing on all cylinders. And watching this performance, I was just like in full control of his instrument and his like stage presence. He as comfortable playing in a 3,000 person venue like the Palladium as he is playing to, I don't know how many people were at that Lions game. What do you think? Like 50,000 people, something like that?
Give or take. Yeah. 35,000 or something. That's the number I always guess for sporting events.
And I got a little bit of the feels when Eminem came out. I was like, this is what I wanted. I wanted like to be delighted and surprised by this moment. And I didn't watch it live. I watched it on YouTube because I've started following him on all his channels since seeing him last year. But it's gotten me back into the old White Stripes catalog. They just got into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this year. Mm-hmm. It's man, I was like, that guy is living his best life. I think he just turned 50. He's like, he's doing it better than anybody else in the kind of blues rock world. And B, I do think that like, it's just a shocking to me that the NFL hasn't been doing this the whole time. Like they had a live TV broadcast. Why not just have a little halftime show? Is it just they're lazy and cheap, or is it that too much organization? I don't know. Why do you think that this hasn't happened?
Well, my fear is that when I was recently talking to someone who works in the radio, and they were talking about how they don't have live music on their radio, in the part of the radio they work anymore, because everyone turns off the radio when live music comes on. And I'm sorry to speculate that maybe it's because at most football halftime shows, people would rather watch Gronk discuss the finer points of defensive strategy than see a band play.
I hope that can change. I know Amazon's been doing these kind of, I guess they're before the show, or maybe after the games.
Yeah.
I went to one of the early ones of that and saw Green Day, right. And it was really cool and interesting. But I thought, oh, this is like kind of a internet only. Like this company has vast, endless resources and can afford to do stuff like this. And I thought, well, why? I mean, it's just they just have a live broadcast anyway. Why not just shuffle some musicians out like Tokyo Police Club and have them play in the freezing cold or lip sync in the freezing cold? You guys did a Olympics performance too, didn't you?
Yeah, but it wasn't televised it was sort of during the Olympics in Vancouver. Every Canadian band basically got a gig to play at one of the numerous outdoor venues. And so we did 2, one in Richmond, BC, and one in Surrey, BC, which are both notable for being the sort of larger, sprawlier suburbs, I guess, outside Vancouver, where a lot of the Olympic venues got built because there was space there. And so we played in 2 like large vacant parks at night. And it was fun, but it was no NFL halftime show, which, well, I feel like Jack White is one of the vanishingly small number of people that makes sense because he, as I referenced on a recent podcast, he's the man who wrote the new sports chant of the 21st century. You know, when they kicked into Seven Nation Army, every person in the stadium knew that melody and sang along with the guitar riff, which I'm sure half of the people at the Detroit Lions Thanksgiving game didn't care about the White Stripes, don't care about Jack White and guitar rock and roll, like self-aware, shticky blues rock. But that song is so famous, it transcends like the notion of rock and roll even at this point. And so, if we had the guy that wrote Ole, 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 and you could get him to play a halftime show, that would make sense. But short of that, I don't know if anyone has a hit on the level that is necessary.
I think you may have been the person who said this to me at some point in time, or you may have said this on this very podcast, but like it has become a folk song. Like for this quarter century, it is the song, which is, it's really, truly remarkable in its simplicity and beauty and power. And man, I'll tell you, like, I can't wait to see him again. That record was, and that record is good start to finish, like particularly the A side of it, just banger after banger after banger after banger. And because he did those two more experimental albums in the lead up to this, it's like, oh, he can sort of do whatever he wants. It's like he has divorced himself from the White Stripes through all those other projects, Dead Weather and what's the one he did with the Greenhorns guys?
The Raconteurs.
The Raconteurs, yeah. That like Steady as She Goes. I mean, every one of those has like a hit or multiple hits, but.
And he's such an amazing figure as someone who obviously is a real student of and lover of and disciple of like rock and roll mythology history. And I remember when the White Stripes were not brand new, but new to me, new to the mainstream, when, White Blood Cells came out and everything. I loved that record, but I also was I was always looking a little out of the side of my eye at his whole, like I just said, like self-conscious shtick, where it was like he was really I only record on equipment that was made before 1980 or whatever it was, and it's all analog this and it's all color scheme that, and everything was like very calculated, it seemed, and I always was suspicious of his like honesty and his earnestness. But I think time has really proven that he's onto something that's like that is real, and he, even if he did come at it from the outside in rather than creating it from the inside and going out, he wound up, like being a one-man version of what the music industry used to be. And it's increasingly, as I get older, I get perhaps inevitably more impressed by the whole Jack White adventure. He's just like, seems like he's never really aired.
Agree.
Including when he kicked that guy's ass in a bar in Detroit from the
Von Bondi's guy.
And when he trash talked the Black Keys guy in an email about how he didn't want his kids to go to the same school.
I felt like genuinely bad about that. That was like stuff in Discovery for a divorce or what. Like that Von Bondi's record though is also good.
Mm-hmm. Come on. Good song.
Yeah. I mean, but I'll to change the subject a little bit. What's your relationship like with Eminem?
It's the only rap or hip hop album I ever bought with my own money. I was a real guitars rock and roll kid, and I'm a real guitars rock and roll adult, but I had not that My Name Is One, the one after it, the Marshall Mathers LP, I think it was. I bought that when I was in grade 7, I think, is when it came out, and so I really definitely understood it, and it made sense to me, and I was ready for it. And then, I don't know, I've always kept up with his news. I've always rooted for him. I always thought he was good. And I just, obviously the content of those old records has not aged in a way that our contemporary social mores can really tolerate. But I always just got the vibe that I wanted him to do well. And he seemed like, if not good people as people, at least good people as artists. And, I don't put on those records. I don't listen to them. But I'll tell you, when he showed up, I was thrilled. And I was listening to the EP this morning, and it reminded me of years and years ago at the Grammys. They did a Kendrick Lamar Imagine Dragons collaboration, which, two very different tastes than the White Stripes and Eminem. But I remember really liking it and then second guessing myself for liking it, because I realized this is just rap metal, basically. It's like distorted guitars and a guy rapping, which I just got finished saying, to the world back then that Limp Bizkit sucks. And I was listening to the Eminem Jack White thing, and it does kind of sound like it could have been on the radio in 1998, after a Limp Bizkit song. And yet I loved it. What about you?
I never had any of the records, but I always kind of liked him. And I'll tell you, the thing this made me revisit some of his music, but it also made me want him to act more. I remember
he's so good in that movie.
He's so good in it. And like he could have been a big star. I'm not sure what was going on in his life at the time, or if he didn't get the right projects, but I still think there's still time too. You see him, he has a kind of, he fills a void that I don't think that there are a lot of actors that have the kind of natural authenticity and presence that he could bring to stuff. And I hope that he finds his way back into movies or TV as an actor, because I mean, I think his records still do very, very well, and that he is I don't know, I mean, I guess I need to listen to more of them, but I agree with you that moment, I liked that it was a surprise that Jack White was there. I liked that it was a surprise that Eminem was there, and that was good TV. You know, it was, and in a time where there's not that much good TV, I fully support it. Now, am I going to start watching football regularly? Absolutely not. But am I going to watch YouTube clips, hopefully, of cool performances by bands? Yeah, I will.
And if Jack White is the torchbearer for distorted guitar, cool live rock and roll, he's doing a great job bearing that torch. And it's always nice to get one glimpse of that in the popular culture at this time in history.
Well, also, just I feel like we'd be remiss by not talking about his gear, that crazy Panaverb Fender amp lineup of those with the different size speakers and all the different effects allocated to each speaker, and then that Telecaster that he's become known for, where it's like got 3 pickups and kill switches and all sorts of stuff on it that costs $3,000 or whatever. Like I love that he's making a zillion effects pedals too. Like he's like, I'm making 3 pedals with MXR, and then I'm doing a pedal with JHS, and I'm dude, the guy is branding machine. It was funny. We were like, it's not like the Gene Simmons Kiss Coffin version of this. It's like, these are all useful things to people's lives.
And they have to be, because the Jack White promise has always been authenticity and credibility. And if he puts his name on one crappy piece of gear, one like cash-in amp, that they sell at Guitar Center for overpriced, and it sucks and people buy it, the whole thing comes crumbling down. And so even as he brand expands, he has to bring the full power of his authenticity to bear on each and every project, which seems like a lot of pressure to me, but maybe he's lived it for so long that it comes naturally. I also loved his guest appearance in the Rory Scovel Netflix comedy movie, where they just stop in the middle and Jack White and Roy Scovel do like a 10-minute long anti-comedy sketch.
His performance as Elvis in Dewey Cox, spectacular. And then also Cold Mountain, right? That's another guy. He should be doing more acting. The two of them should make a movie together.
Buddy cop, hollowed out post-industrial Detroit, Jack White, Marshall Mathers driving around in like a big long old Ford motor car built in Detroit. Who says no? True Detective season 5.
John Carpenter style, like Escape from Detroit, is the two of them, like Repo Man, where there's like aliens, and sci-fi hybrid that's what I want. I want I want like an early 80s grungy, crude visual effects, kind of the two of them. Yeah, like their version of maybe even like the French Connection, where it's just they're corrupt cops. It's Training Day with the two of them in Detroit as well.
Jack White, Slim Shady, get at MLD Productions.
Please, we will write this movie for you right
Absolutely.
Now. Yeah.
So we liked it. We're pro Jack White. We're pro Eminem.
Yes.
Of course, we're pro Green Bay Packers. Go Packers.
Go Packers, I guess. I support
That's
you.
right.
I want you
By
to
the
have
people.
all the things you want.
Well, every day I get a little bit closer. I'll tell you what I want more than anything else is to have a great time making podcasts. And
this
today,
has been nice.
I got what I wanted. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. I'm glad we talked about this instead of AI replacing humanity in musicianship. To read about that, look anywhere. But Major Label Debut is for news that makes you feel good. News you cannot use except as balm in these dry, spiritually dry, parched times. It's always a pleasure potting with you, my good friend.
Ditto, Graham, ditto.
We'll be back next week with Tom Brady on the show. And I think we're all looking forward to it. I'm Graham Wright. Major Label Debut, as always, is produced by John Paul Bullock. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
By Josh Hook, the only true athlete among us who is not present, but I'm sure is laughing uproariously at all of our monkey shines, as every week. Josh, we love you.
Hi,
Greg
Josh.
Alsop made our theme music. We love Greg, too. And you can follow us and find us on all the socials media, and you can contact us via the DMs and, all the usual ways that a internet-based enterprise interacts with its consumers. We would love to interact with you along those lines. So please feel free to get at us. And Major Label Debut will, as always, return with more tales from the intersection of art, commerce, and occasionally sport.
Sports.
When you talk about it, when you're smart, when you're an intellectual.
Sport.
The wide world of sport.
Sports.